Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities in Miniature. It's Friday, and that means once again it's time for another Obscurity in Literature. Today we have a comic, well, a collected comic, I believe. I don't know if it was originally published in multiple volumes in France. That's usually how things go over there. But this is PTSD by Guillame Singelin. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. And it's an interesting comic in that it tackles obviously some pretty heavy duty stuff with the whole PTSD, but there's the issues as we open the interesting little die cut cover here. We are dealing with addiction, homelessness, treatment of veterans, just some pretty heavy handed issues drawn in a very interesting style. It really reminds me of like early 90s Masamune Shirow Dominion Tank Police era style manga. Obviously, it's also very cartoony, which we'll get into as it goes. And funny enough, the author does mention living in Tokyo at the time that he was getting inspired by this book. And it becomes really apparent as the story goes. It is a war story, much like the cover says. She came home, but her war isn't over. Yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a Hollywood tagline, but it's true. And obviously, that is something that a lot of veterans have to deal with. And just as the story begins, you can't help but notice the grittiness of everything. Like, almost every panel just feels teeming and bustling with that crowded, cramped city life. And I feel like there is an absolutely obvious Shiro influence there, and I am absolutely okay with that. But yeah, just the characters are all easy to figure out who's who. I mean, even this dude looks like something out of a Shiro manga. But I love just all of the life that permeates each panel. I mean, you can tell there is a lot of love and care put into these. I don't think any of these are actual characters. It is its own kind of made up language. Some of it looks like actual words in various languages, but that's unimportant. So the story focuses on our main eye-patched character here and alternates between both what's going on currently and what was going on during the war. Let's see if I can find the war flashbacks. Kind of jump pretty often. Obviously, it's pretty obvious to tell when our main character has both of her eyes still. Yeah, it's not any particular actual war. To me, it feels kind of like Vietnam. The jungles, there's some helicopters at some point. Unfortunately, to me, I was a bit bummed out that they didn't go with any kind of whimsical Miyazaki-ish style machinery, but you know, it is what it is. I love the angles. I love just the clutteredness. I'm a big Brandon Graham fan as well, and he tends to also have very junky, eclectic, cluttered looking panels like this in his various cityscapes. So yeah, it's an interesting book here. We also have kind of this relationship that starts to grow between our main character June and then this noodle shop owner as well, and kind of what they do together and how they ultimately, work towards bettering the community. Funny enough, for as horrible as everything is in this, a lot of the veterans in the story do put the blame on the government for when they came home and nobody took care of them, but nobody from the government actually really plays into the story. A lot of the story is with our main character here, June, who goes on a personal vendetta against a bunch of gangs that are busy peddling narcotics and, opiates, basically, and very addictive substances to all of these homeless veterans, obviously suffering from PTSD. And what's even more interesting is, while, the gang members are the baddies in the story, they aren't really, I don't know if they're, very bad in the sense that, they even point out that they're doing this because they were veterans themselves. They needed something to survive with. That was the only way they can move forward in life. It's very nuanced. It's a very gray, shades of gray in terms of morality, I thought, which is, life. But just, it's not something that I often encounter with comics. I mean, yeah, you do have some of these slice of life type, even when they are a bit fantastical, they still kind of, dwell in real world issues. And I think that is an interesting look. And this is a book that, after I finished it, I actually kind of, I dwelled on it for a bit, hung around in my mind. And I did actually come back to it and reread it a couple weeks afterwards. And I really had to mull over in my head, how did I want to approach this? Because, yeah, this is a serious subject. I mean, it's something that, a lot of people still have to deal with and unfortunately don't get the help that they need. And so, yeah, while there are points in the comic when it gets a bit graphic, as our one-eyed cyclopean protagonist takes on her personal vendetta, cleaning up the streets, at least the streets that affect her fellow veterans. Ultimately it does end up on a happier note, thankfully, because I gotta say, it's a pretty harrowing, somewhat depressing story. You've got, like, the vet who just, shut himself in and forgot about everybody and didn't care and take care of anybody else, and yeah, it's gets pretty dark at times. So if you enjoy that, not enjoy dark stories, but if you can appreciate, let's say, a story that maybe takes you into uncomfortable places, that maybe challenges your line of thinking, or makes you, at least give a few moments to ponder the story afterwards. See, I was kind of bummed out we didn't have any kind of funky, fancy-looking helicopters, considering some of the other tech they've got in here tends to be kind of funky. I'm not going to show you how it ends, but it does end on a positive note, as I was saying. I love these little sketches in the back. Quite nice. I don't think a lot of Singelin's work has been published in English. I think this is the first one. I know he's done work with Onakama Studios, who did like Dofus, Crossmaster, Wakfu, all that stuff. I know he's been involved in a few of their properties, so definitely worth checking out. It's just interesting how he seems to alternate between a very cartoony but very, manga-ish, very, uber detailed style, both at the same time. Kind of enjoyed that. So, something different. Definitely something different. Not something that I usually have my eyes out. That's the book. Go look that one up. They made a movie of it recently, in fact, and I know he worked on some of the side projects as well. So this is from First Second, if you guys are curious. And they do tend to put out some interesting stuff. So yeah, pretty cool. I enjoyed it. Like I said, it goes places, and definitely maybe think about it afterwards. And I definitely would like to see more from our author. Really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the use of colors in there, really gritty, detailed urban environments. Character design's really cool. I'm not a fan of his super big, wobbly, fried egg eyes, but that's, I guess, my only real criticism. But, it makes his work stand out, I guess. So I can't really fault that. And it's not like I'm this fantastic artist either. I mean, hell, I'd probably be drawing much worse than this. So, yeah. I don't have a whole lot of room to criticize, but I'm the one who gets to sit here on my soapbox at the moment. So, yeah. Anyway, I will put a link down below if you guys are curious. Do check it out. And if you have access to any of his stuff in French, by all means, point me in the right direction of where I can acquire some as well, because I am quite curious to see some of his other work. With that said, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities in Miniature saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye.